everybody, I'm Amy from the Cauldron, and I have here some socks that I have frozen in water to make this big ice block. The socks that are frozen in here are 74% viscose, 24% nylon and 2% elastane. Now I've frozen these types of socks in ice before, but last time I added soda ash on top. This time I soaked the socks in soda ash and then froze them. So I'm wondering if this is going to change how the socks take up the dye. Now this dye I've got here is lime pop. I've got my gloves on, I've got a mask on, and the second dye I'm using today is chartreuse. And these are both fibre reactive dyes from Dharma. I'm just sprinkling this on. This is a second spoon. All the equipment I've used today is dedicated for dyeing. I don't use it for food at all. I rarely use chartreuse, so I thought, when I was picking out the colours today, I thought I'm going to use colours that I don't use often. And while I do use lime pop sometimes, I rarely use chartreuse. I thought I'm going to give it its moment to shine today, because I don't really know what sort of colour it turns into. Because it's a green, but that is looking very, very orange at the moment. I'm going to go back into lime pop, add a bit more. This is so chunky, this lime pop. I think the yellow pigment in it is really chunky, so it's quite difficult to dissolve, I find. I'm debating whether I want to add any Raven Black on top. No, I don't think I will this time. I think I'm just going to keep it as chartreuse and lime pop. Have I added enough dye? This is where I start second guessing myself. I don't want to add loads of dye because I'm not going to put anything underneath this to catch any excess dye. But I also don't want to put too little dye on and not really have good colour coverage. I think I'm going to leave it like this. If I don't like how the socks turn out, I can always just dye them again. But last time I did this, I added the soda ash on top, and the socks didn't really take much. Well, they took the dye where the dye had been placed, but the dye didn't really soak through the socks. So I'm wondering if this will be any different this time. Now, because this is a plant-based fibre, I just need to leave this, let the ice melt, let the dyes do their thing. Ideally, I would leave this for 48 hours after the ice is melted, but next week is half term and I'm not going to have any chance to getting around to washing this next week. So I'm going to leave this for probably at least a week, possibly closer to 2 weeks before we'll wash this. I'm starting to think I need a bit more of that lime pop. Now I've been standing here chattering away, and the chartreuse has spread somewhat, but not the lime pop. It could be because that lime pop is so chunky. So actually I'm going to take a pinch and just try and break up some of that powder in my fingers. That might help. When I've done this before, I end up getting more dye on my fingers than I do on here. And now I'm getting loads and loads of dye on my fingers. But I do want to make sure that there is enough on this to really give a nice green colour, because it's such a beautiful colour. Okay, that'll do for now. Yep, so I'm going to leave this now, and I'll probably come back to it in probably about 2 weeks' time. We're about 5-ish hours or so into the melting time with this, and that chartreuse seems to have disappeared. It was orange down this end, and sort of looking at it, there's hardly any dye there. I'm wondering if all the dye has gone down into the bottom there, and I am starting to regret not having anything ready to stick in the bottom. But oh well, it is what it is this time. So yeah, I may be re-dyeing these very soon. It's been about 24 hours since I set this up to melt, and you can see the ice has melted, but there really isn't much dye on these socks whatsoever. You can see that chartreuse is very, very orange on there, and the lime pop there, but really not much dye whatsoever. So, oh, I really like that. So I'm going to go ahead and say that while ice dyeing is fantastic when you put ice on top of what you're dyeing, freezing what you're dyeing in ice and then adding dye, probably not the best thing to do. So I am just going to move that out of the way, put these socks back in this box, and then I'm just trying to separate them a little bit so they don't necessarily get that fold down the middle. And then very, very, very carefully add in this dye mixture, and I'm hoping some of this dye will take. And it's a beautiful colour, and hopefully it will give the socks a really lovely, nice greenish colour. Yeah, already they're looking much better, and I'm hoping that this will work. Now, I'm not going to get a chance to wash these tomorrow, so I'm probably going to leave these for another week at least, as it's tomorrow's the last day of the school term, and then we've got a week off for half term, and I'm not going to get around to doing any sort of filming or washing over half term. So once the kids are back to school in June, I will get around to washing this. But for now, I'm just going to leave this in a nice sunny spot in the garden. This has been sitting in the garden now for probably about 2 weeks now, I think. That's why this box is now filthy, just from sitting in the garden. So, pouring out that extra dye. They're a lovely yellowy green colour at the moment. So let's see how these wash out. Now this colour runoff isn't unusual. And if you've seen some of my dyeing videos before, cotton-based fibres do this. They don't exhaust in the same way that animal fibres do. And that's not too bad. Now this is just plain tap water with a little bit of washing up liquids. I'm not going to stand here and keep rinsing these socks until the water runs clear. I've done a good rinse off already. These socks look really great. An interesting colour, not one I would have picked, but certainly one I like, and I'm interested to see what this looks like when it dries off. I'm now going to put these in the washing machine with some old towels and sheets, things I don't mind colour transferring onto. I have never noticed colour transferring onto things when I wash them now, but I'm not going to risk putting my children's white school shirts in with these straight away. And here are my finished socks. Now these are a lot more yellow than I had expected, but if I had checked my swatches before I dyed them, that's the lime pop and this one is chartreuse here, I probably should have expected something that was a bit more yellow leaning than green leaning. I can't really spot much of this lime pop in here, but if we have a good look, you can see that's the chartreuse. And you can see there are quite a bit of sort of orangey patches. If I stick that there, and sort of the overall tone is definitely more this chartreuse than the lime pop. And these are my little yarn samples as well. And again, the overall colour of the socks is much more similar to the chartreuse than the lime pop. I'm not complaining. I just really don't know this chartreuse colour, and I need to use it more so that I know what to expect when I use it. But I am not disappointed with these socks at all. I'm really glad that I put them in the dye liquid and left them for, I think it was about 2 weeks in total. Otherwise these would have been very white socks with some darker little patches on them like that. But, oh, there's a little pop of lime pop up in the corner. But these would have been very white socks with very little dye. So I am glad that I added them into the dye liquid. I am surprised that they aren't quite as green as I was expecting, But again, as I said, if I'd looked at my swatch samples, I probably should have expected something more this colour. I think I am going to over dye these again. I don't know what colour, but because it is a fairly solid colour on these socks. Yes, there are little patches here. You can see sort of the orange bits and some little, that looks a bit more like lime pop up in the corner. And yeah, there are tonal differences, but in general they are pretty solid colours. So I think I want to dye these again and see what I can create. Maybe I'll do the plastic bag method that I really like, and maybe I'll use the chartreuse and lime pop again and see what sort of splits I can get from those colours, and see if I can get any more of this really lovely orangey yellow colour. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I have enjoyed making it. I definitely learnt a lot in this video. Freezing socks in ice and then sprinkling ice on top probably isn't the best way of dyeing them. So I don't think I'm going to be doing that method again with socks. I might do it with yarn again, because I have done it with yarn once before in the early days of dye time. And I think I did create quite a nice, colourway. It was a red and yellow one, I think. I'll link the video, but I might do it again with yarn. I publish a new dyeing tutorial every Monday, usually around 6 PM UK time, and I do like to do different things in my videos, and I will be over dyeing these socks again at some point. I don't know when, once I've decided. So make sure you've got your notifications turned on so you don't miss any new videos. Thank you so much for watching.